telling you I'm the greatest. Well, one of the greatest. I don't want no problems, LL.
This powerful statement by Jay-Z at the 2021 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony was not just a proud reflection on his accomplishments, but a declaration of a journey full of trials. From hustling on the streets of Brooklyn to building a music empire and becoming a self-made billionaire, Jay-Z has always known when to speak and when to stay silent. But at the age of 42, he chose to break that principle publicly, naming the 10 most deeply fractured relationships of his life, not to stir up old grudges but to close those chapters for good. So what led someone known for mastering the art of silence to abandon his own rule? Why did he choose this moment to name 10 broken relationships? And was it an act of personal release or a subtle message to the entire hip-hop world? What stories would be revealed, moments that even a legend could not ignore? And more importantly, are we about to witness a very different Jay-Z from the tightly controlled mogul the public has always known? Let the journey of discovery begin. Kanye West, from creative brotherhood to an irreparable rift. When it comes to relationships that have shaped contemporary music, few duos can compare to Jay-Z and Kanye West during their golden era. Together, they didn't just create iconic hits, but redefined how a rap album could resonate across the globe. From the Blueprint 2001, where Kanye played the role of producer, to Watch the Throne 2011, a joint project that sold over 436,000 copies in its first week in the US, the two once seemed like perfect halves of an artistic and business dream. Jay once publicly called Kanye his little brother, and Kanye saw Jay as a role model, a connection built on creativity, trust, and respect. But in 2016, in a surprising moment on stage during the St. Pablo tour in Sacramento, Kanye chose to voice his personal frustrations before thousands, directly mentioning Jay's wife and children. To many, it was just a rash monologue, but to Jay-Z it hit the most sensitive spot: his family. Jay's response didn't come as an outburst, but as silence. He didn't go online to react, didn't speak to the press, only later sharing during a Rap Radar interview that what truly hurt him wasn't the professional criticism, but the fact that his wife and children's names were brought into a public conversation. In hip-hop culture, where punchlines often target rivals, the line between art and personal life can blur. But for Jay, family is untouchable, an inner sanctum, where even unintentional intrusions leave deep marks. He continued to keep his distance, and although the two had brief moments of reunion like Jay's feature on Jail Donda 2021, the full warmth of their earlier bond never seemed to return. From a cultural and social perspective, the story between Jay-Z and Kanye is not just personal conflict. It reflects a broader truth in an art world under enormous commercial pressure. The boundaries between colleague and family, between stage and real life, are always fragile. When a creative relationship is tested by personal matters, the question isn't simply who's right or wrong, but whether art is strong enough to mend the cracks caused by human emotion. Jay-Z, with his long-game mindset and emotional discipline, chose to protect his family through distance. Kanye, with his impulsive honesty and urge to speak his mind, immediately unintentionally crossed that boundary. And in between lies a void once filled with collaborative tracks, now breathlessly silent. Can this gap be bridged if both are willing to set aside personal rules to find common ground? Or will it remain one of the unfinished chapters in Jay-Z's journey? Whatever the answer may be, this story opens up a necessary perspective as we turn to the next figure, Fat Joe, where silence also played a decisive role, but not within the family, rather on the honor-driven streets of New York City. Fat Joe, the forfeited final, and the silences behind the scenes. In 2004, Rucker Park, the mecca of street basketball, hosted the Entertainers Basketball Classic, where teams led by rappers and music producers competed, drawing in a host of NBA stars. At the time, Jay-Z headed Team S Carter, believed to have the strongest lineup in the tournament with names like LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal. Fat Joe led Terror Squad, which also boasted stars like Carmelo Anthony. The championship game had been hyped for weeks, with fans lining up and media anticipating a classic showdown between two hip-hop and sports icons. But at the last minute, Team S Carter didn't show up. The game ended before it began, and the title went to Terror Squad without a single play. To outsiders, it may have seemed like a scheduling issue or a logistical mishap. But in street culture, where showing up is a statement of presence and pride, leaving the court empty sends a signal that's hard to ignore. Fat Joe later dropped a pointed line in his hit, Lean Back. My team didn't even have to play to win the championship, which might sound like a boast on the surface, but those who followed the event knew exactly who it was aimed at. That lyric quickly became a widely referenced quote whenever the rivalry between the two was brought up. Over time, the distance between them went beyond basketball. When Fat Joe teamed up with Ja Rule and Jadakiss to release New York as a response to 50 Cent, an invitation for Jay-Z to join was declined. Some speculated that Jay didn't want to take sides in an open feud with 50, while others believed it was simply a strategic move to avoid unnecessary conflict. Fat Joe saw the rejection as a subtle block, and in an interview he revealed that the quiet tension may have cost him a lucrative sneaker deal with Reebok worth millions at the time. One thing is clear in the entertainment industry: what happens behind the scenes often matters just as much as what's shown on camera. Jay-Z is known for being meticulous about his brand, and sometimes that means choosing sides quietly. Fat Joe, with his straightforward approach, looked at the same decision and saw it as a sign of disrespect. The question isn't who was right or wrong, but this: when personal pride clashes with long-term strategy, what's truly worth sacrificing? Notably, over a decade later, the ice between them finally thawed. In 2016, Jay-Z featured on the remix of All the Way Up by Fat Joe and Remy Ma, a track that earned a Grammy nomination and quickly went platinum in the US. That collaboration not only marked a public reconciliation, but also proved that in the world of hip-hop, silence sometimes just marks a pause before mutual understanding is found again. Did that reconciliation stem from personal growth, or a realization that both would be stronger on the same side? The answer may never be clear, but it paves the way for the next chapter: Beanie Seagull. Beanie Seagull, a vow of loyalty and the courtroom disillusionment. Beanie joined Rockefeller in the late 1990s, bringing with him a gritty voice, street-infused lyrics, and the image of a soldier ready to stand on the front lines to defend the brand. He wasn't just an artist. He was the guy who would go anywhere with Jay-Z, from stage and backstage to tense real-life moments. Anyone who followed hip-hop in the early 2000s knew if Rockefeller was challenged, Beanie would be the first to respond, both on wax and in the streets. In 2003, while riding high after his album The Reason 2001 peaked at #5 on the Billboard 200, Beanie was arrested on charges of weapons possession and attempted murder. In a world where ride or die isn't just a saying, he believed Jay would stand by him, not just as the label boss, but as the older brother who once vowed to ride with him through any storm. Jay-Z did show up in court, but when asked whether he was willing to take responsibility for supervising Beanie if he was released on bail, the answer was no. From a practical standpoint, Jay's decision could have come from multiple concerns: avoiding legal risk, protecting Rockefeller's public image, or simply not wanting to be legally tied to a volatile situation. But to Beanie, it was a breaking point. He recounted that moment in several interviews, how it felt like all the sacrifices, all the times he showed up for the label, suddenly meant nothing. In 2009, Beanie released What You Talkin' About, a direct diss track pouring all his disappointment and bitterness into every bar. Jay-Z did not respond, at least not publicly. The silence between them felt heavier than any lyrical comeback. This story highlights the fundamental gap between brotherhood in words and the actual mechanics of running a music empire. In hip-hop culture, the concept of loyalty is praised as a guiding principle, but when faced with the law, it meets harsh limitations. Beanie represented the belief that loyalty is unconditional. Jay-Z perhaps stood for the idea that loyalty must be balanced with personal accountability and long-term strategy. They once reappeared on stage together at a Tidal event in 2015, a moment that looked like a handshake of reconciliation, but Beanie later admitted the two never sat down to truly talk about what had happened. That leaves a lingering question: can healing ever take place when the wounds are never truly named? 50 Cent, the silent battle between two marketing masters. After the story of Beanie Seagull, where loyalty was tested in a courtroom, our journey leads to another kind of conflict, more calculated, less emotional, but equally strategic. This was the face-off between Jay-Z and 50 Cent. It wasn't about lawsuits or aggressive diss tracks. It was a long game where both parties knew the value of their brands and how to wield them like weapons. 50 Cent entered the hip-hop scene in the late 1990s with a different style, bold, provocative, and unafraid of confrontation. His track How to Rob, 1999, openly named dozens of major artists in its lyrics, including Jay-Z. At that year's Summer Jam, Jay-Z fired back instantly, Go against Jigga, I'm about $1, what the F asterisk 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 is 50 cents. The quick retort asserted his position and left a lasting impression on the crowd. But beyond the words, Jay-Z soon recognized that 50 was rising fast. He even warned the Rockefeller roster 50 is coming, and he wasn't wrong. Get Rich or Die Tryin', 2003 sold over 872,000 copies in its first week in the US, eventually reaching more than 9 million worldwide. Jay-Z, with his refined, mature sound, became the target of 50's jabs, who dubbed his music golf course music, implying it catered to wealthy, disconnected audiences far from the streets. Rather than engage in a prolonged rap beef, the two maintained a strange equilibrium. They once collaborated in a Reebok sneaker campaign, appeared together in the press, and later resumed trading subtle jabs at each other. Every statement, every move seemed carefully calculated to stir buzz without damaging either's brand. It was a type of rivalry hard to define from the outside. Were they competitors or two players who understood that keeping a public rivalry alive benefited them both? Jay-Z and 50 Cent exemplify a kind of Cold War and commercial hip-hop culture, rarely explosive with violence or venomous bars, but always present in the form of competition over revenue, influence, and endorsement deals. Both knew their audiences when to respond to keep the spark alive and when to remain silent to create curiosity. What's notable is that while 50 Cent expanded into television power BMF and diversified his business ventures, Jay-Z remained a mogul in music business and sports. Two different trajectories, but both rooted in the same foundation, understanding the power of image and narrative. Has this strategic silence truly preserved peace, or is it simply a form of competition, wrapped in a shell of mutual respect? The answer may never be fully clear. But as we turn to the next figure, Jazzo, we leave behind the global marketing battlefield and return to a deeply personal story, the relationship between a mentor and his protege, once as close as brothers, but later parted in silence. Jazzo, the mentor left behind. Jazzo, born Jonathan Burks, was the first person to open the doors of the rap game for Sean Carter. In 1989, they released Hawaiian Sophie together, introducing a young Jay-Z to the recording studio magazine covers and the world of professional music at a time when no one knew his name. Jazzo wasn't just a guide. He was the model from whom Jay learned how to write sharp lyrics, develop a precise flow, and adopt a survival mindset in a ruthless industry. In the 1990s, as Rockefeller gradually took shape, Jay-Z began to rise with Reasonable Doubt, 1996, and major record deals, while Jazzo struggled to maintain his footing. The gap wasn't only in commercial success, but also in the paths they chose. Jazzo once shared that he felt left behind, especially when Jay didn't use his influence to bring his former mentor back to center stage. Tensions escalated in 2003 when Jay agreed to appear on Jazzo's track Let's Go, but failed to show up for the video shoot without explanation or even a courtesy call. To Jazz, it wasn't just a canceled appointment, but a clear sign that their relationship was no longer the same. Jazzo's response came through music. He released It's Over, a direct diss track, as if telling the world that the student-teacher bond had ended. Jay-Z, staying true to form, didn't respond directly, but dropped subtle references in What More Can I Say, the Black Album 2003. The two went their separate ways, rarely crossing paths, as if the years of camaraderie now only lived on in fans' memories. In 2017, they unexpectedly appeared on stage together at one of Jay's shows in Brooklyn. A smile and handshake were captured in a photo, but no collaborative track ever followed. The reunion felt more like a courteous gesture than a true reconciliation. From the outside, this appears to be one of hip-hop's quiet tragedies, when the student becomes a mogul, while the mentor remains on the sidelines wondering whether what he gave ever truly mattered. Yet from a personal perspective, both were bound by difficult choices. Jay-Z had to prioritize strategic decisions at a time when protecting old ties could jeopardize his trajectory, while Jazzo carried the pain of watching his protege succeed with no space left for him. Do all relationships in the music industry require such sacrifice as power and fame grow? Or is this simply a unique case of two artists whose career paths diverged beyond the point of return? R. Kelly, The Broken Tour, and the $75 million lawsuit. If the story with Jazzo evoked the painful tension between mentor and protege, then the one with R. Kelly serves as a clear example of how a large-scale collaboration can collapse in an instant, and when it does, the consequences go far beyond hurt feelings, extending into staggering numbers. In 2004, The Best of Both Worlds tour was promoted as a musical spectacle blending R. Kelly's smooth R&B vocals with Jay-Z's sharp-edged rap. The union of these two giants promised sold-out shows across major U.S. stadiums with projected revenues in the tens of millions. For fans, it was a rare opportunity to see two titans of their favorite genres share the same stage. But the anticipation quickly turned to chaos. During a show at Madison Square Garden, R. Kelly abruptly left the stage mid-performance, claiming he saw someone with a gun in the audience. When he returned, he was pepper-sprayed backstage by a member of Jay-Z's team. The incident not only cut the show short but also destabilized the tour's entire schedule. Jay-Z responded by continuing the tour solo, rebranding it as Jay-Z and Friends, bringing on guest artists like Mary J. Blige and Usher to fill the void. From a business standpoint, this was a move to salvage ticket sales and honor commitments. But for R. Kelly, it was a sign that trust had been broken. Soon after, he filed a lawsuit against Jay-Z and the tour promoter, seeking $75 million in damages for breach of contract and reputational harm. The legal battle dragged on for months, with both sides trading accusations, turning what began as a musical alliance into a very public feud. When two massive personal brands share a stage, any conflict, whether rooted in personal issues, security concerns, or management missteps, can be magnified to the point of collapse. For Jay-Z, continuing the tour could be seen as a move to protect obligations and his fans. For R. Kelly, it appeared to be a unilateral decision that cut off any chance of reconciliation. Could the outcome have been different had both sides handled the crisis more effectively on the night of the incident? Or was the collaboration always too fragile to withstand the weight of commercial pressure and the egos of two stars? Lil Wayne, Baby Money, and a wound that never fully healed. The next name on this increasingly uncomfortable list is none other than Lil Wayne. In 2006, Lil Wayne's contract with Cash Money was nearing its end. Jay-Z, by then already the mogul behind Rockefeller and expanding his influence through Def Jam, expressed interest in signing Wayne. It could have been a major turning point in Weezy's career, but Wayne declined, choosing instead to stay with Birdman, the man who had supported him since his teenage years. In the hip-hop world, this decision wasn't just a business move, it was also a declaration of loyalty. For Jay-Z, it effectively closed the door on a deeper partnership. The real conflict, however, erupted in 2011 when Jay-Z and Kanye West released the track, Hum. In it, Jay dropped the punchline, "Really, you got baby money?" Fans immediately speculated that the line was aimed at Wayne and Birdman, head of Cash Money. Wayne didn't let it slide. Just months later, in an interview, he clapped back, "It's good I got your baby money. I'ma kidnap your..." The exchange wasn't just a rap battle. It became symbolic of the clash between two value systems. On one side, Jay-Z representing brand control and calculated moves. On the other, Wayne embodying explosive creativity, untamed expression, and unwavering loyalty to the man who raised him. The irony. When Wayne became embroiled in a legal battle with Birdman in 2015, Jay-Z took his side. Roc Nation supported Wayne legally and helped manage his contracts and performances. This led many to believe the two had reconciled. But by 2024, when Jay-Z, in his role as music consultant for the NFL, chose Kendrick Lamar to headline the Super Bowl halftime show in New Orleans, Wayne's hometown, questions resurfaced. Was Jay still keeping his distance? Nicki Minaj even implied that Wayne had been left out, though the claim was never confirmed. This story reflects a complex truth in the music industry. Personal conflicts can be shelved for mutual gain, but that doesn't mean they disappear. Jay-Z and Lil Wayne can still shake hands for a shared purpose, yet their history remains like sediment layers that don't simply wash away. For Wayne, Baby Money is a scar that lingers. For Jay-Z, Wayne's rejection in 2006 may have left its own sting. Perhaps all it would take is a single track built on mutual understanding and respect to bridge the gap. Or perhaps after all these years, keeping a safe distance has simply become a habit too ingrained to break. From here, the story takes us back to a different kind of moment, one not born from diss tracks or business deals, but from a single public act that shook a man's image, the Prodigy Mobb Deep incident at Summer Jam 2001. Prodigy Mobb Deep, Summer Jam, 2001, and the wounding photo. It was June 28, 2001, at Hot 97's Summer Jam, one of the most prestigious stages in hip-hop at the time. Jay-Z was at the peak of his powers with The Blueprint on the way, and Prodigy was one half of Mobb Deep, an icon of gritty, street-centered Queensbridge rap. During his set, Jay-Z debuted the opening verse of Takeover, a diss track aimed at both Nas and Mobb Deep. But what truly stunned the audience wasn't the lyrics. It was the image that appeared on the screen behind him, a childhood photo of Prodigy in a dance class wearing white shorts and a t-shirt. In hip-hop culture, where a street-hardened image is central to one's credibility, that photo landed like a blade to the pride, turning Prodigy from a hard-edged figure into the butt of a joke before tens of thousands of live attendees and millions more who watched afterward. Prodigy and Mobb Deep didn't take long to respond. They released rebuttal tracks, appeared in the media to defend their image, and repeatedly referenced the incident as a turning point. From Jay-Z's perspective, it was psychological warfare, not just a lyrical attack, but a public blow to his rival's credibility. From Prodigy's view, it was a step too far, crossing the line of rap beef into humiliating personal attack. What's notable is that both artists continued operating within the same New York hip-hop scene for years afterward. Occasionally, they appeared at the same events, but never publicly reconciled. Before his passing in 2017, Prodigy still referred to Summer Jam 2001 as a scar on his career. Jay-Z has never publicly apologized or walked back the move, perhaps, because under the unwritten rules of rap battles at the time, psychological takedowns were not just fair play, they were admired. Cameron, who holds the power after Summer Jam 2001, where a single photo could destroy someone's credibility in seconds, the story enters murkier waters, the inner workings of Rockefeller, where power was measured by personnel decisions, executive titles, and who had the final say. Cameron, the Harlem icon known for his wit bubblegum pink style and commercial breakthrough with Come Home With Me, 2002 found himself at the center of a delicate balance. That album paved the way for Oh Boy Feet. Jules Santana to crack the Billboard Hot 100 Top 5 and dominate the R&B/hip-hop charts for weeks, making Cam a serious revenue-driving force. At that time, Dame Dash made the move to appoint Cam as vice president of Rockefeller. During Jay-Z's absence, a gesture that served both as a reward and a message: Harlem has a seat, and that seat carries weight. When Jay returned and blocked the promotion, the conflict was no longer about lyrics. It became a matter of power. Cameron felt disrespected. Jay saw a dangerous precedent: if top-level decisions could be made while he was away, then who was really in charge? From there, things slipped into a gray zone: who owes whom, who erased whom from which projects. Cam claimed he removed Jay's remix verse from Oh Boy out of spite. Rumors spread that Jay cut Cam's contribution from the paid-in-full movie soundtrack, a film Harlem viewed as a cultural portrait of itself. No definitive verdict was ever reached on those accusations, but the fallout was clear: broken trust, fractured networks, and a once vibrant office atmosphere turning into a series of suffocating closed-door meetings. By 2006, Cam released You Gotta Love It, a streetwise diss laced with mockery, inside jokes, and just enough name-dropping for fans to connect the dots while keeping it legally clean. Jay didn't respond directly. He stuck to his usual playbook, letting time and strategy flow like water over stone, wearing down hot tempers. Here, the contrast in personalities became stark. Cam was Harlem's heartbeat, improvisational, flamboyant, here to play. Jay was Brooklyn's pulse-controlled minimalist, here to win. Dame appointing Cam as VP could be seen as an effort to rebalance power toward a broader family structure, bringing Harlem to the decision-making table. But for Jay, who was building a disciplined, consistent empire, it felt like changing the locks while the homeowner was away. Cam, with chart numbers and cultural dominance from fashion to slang, had every reason to demand a voice. Jay, with long-term vision, had every reason to tighten a structure that was beginning to wobble. This raises a deeper question in a music company where artists are also symbolic shareholders. Is there a model that respects individual creativity while still upholding organizational discipline? Though tensions lingered for nearly a decade, in 2019, Jay-Z surprised many by calling Cam just a brief phone call, but enough to bring him on stage with Jay and Nas during a rare New York moment. It wasn't a formal apology. It wasn't a symbolic crowning either. It felt more like a graceful gesture, an acknowledgement of the other's cultural value, even if the past pages couldn't be rewritten. To me, that moment showed that hip-hop still has room for ritual, a nod instead of a speech, a performance instead of a reconciliation contract. But is ritual enough to heal the power structures once bruised? Or is every truce simply temporary, waiting for the next collision? Nas Ether and the lesson from a public defeat. If the conflict with Cameron was a tale of behind-the-scenes power struggles, then the one with Nas was Jay-Z's most public battle. A head-to-head showdown in which every word and every beat was followed by the entire hip-hop world, like a championship final. In 2001, Jay-Z released Takeover on the Blueprint, a nearly 5-minute rap laced with razor-sharp lines aimed directly at Nas and Mobb Deep. Jay implied that Illmatic 1994, Nas's legendary debut, was his only true high point, and that the albums that followed were merely fading shadows. The timing of Takeover coincided with one of the most painful periods in Nas's life. His mother had passed away earlier that year. In that context, Jay's diss track wasn't just an artistic jab, it felt like a hit delivered when his opponent was at his weakest. To some fans, it was a calculated move. To others, an unforgiving blow. Nas didn't stay silent. At the end of that same year, he released Ether, a diss track that would become a benchmark in the genre with lyrics that were both personal and richly visual, powerful enough to sway public and critical opinion in his favor. The impact of Ether didn't just shift public momentum, it sparked a wider debate about the standards of rap beef. From a branding perspective, it was the first time Jay-Z faced a public defeat, with audiences cheering for his rival on his own turf, New York. From an artistic viewpoint, it proved that rap battles still had the power to upend titles and charts as long as the lyrics resonated with emotion and community pride. Remarkably, just 4 years later in October 2005, Jay-Z hosted the I Declare War concert at Madison Square Garden and shocked the crowd by bringing Nas on stage. That handshake, witnessed by thousands, officially closed one of rap's fiercest feuds. It wasn't just an end to hostility, it opened the door to collaboration, starting with Black Republican 2006, a track that showed former rivals could become allies when the shared goal was quality music and cultural legacy. Jay-Z learned how to face public failure and reshape his image, while Nas proved that perseverance and timing could turn the tide. On a deeper level, Ether and Takeover together became a defining moment for modern rap beef, where victory wasn't just about lyrics, but about how the battle ended. Yet the question remains, if Ether had never happened, would Jay-Z have become the kind of man willing to shake hands with a rival to strengthen his legacy? Or would he have stayed the course, never looking back? And from here, as we close out the list of 10 names, the story shifts to a broader space where Jay-Z is no longer just the keeper of grudges, but someone who knows when to lay them down to build something greater, a legacy and cultural power that transcends music. From public clashes that shook hip-hop culture to quiet tensions behind the scenes, each story reveals a facet of Jay-Z's true character, knowing when to fight, when to stay silent, and when to extend a hand to build something greater than himself. If you want to keep exploring untold stories, dive deeper into the figures and events that shaped global music, and hear behind-the-scenes accounts interwoven with triumph and loss, make sure to follow the channel and turn on notifications. The journey ahead holds many surprises, and you definitely won't want to miss a single moment.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.